Hey guys, welcome to our new channel, Twin Dev Studios. Me and my twin brother Jonas cover all things gaming and game dev, so if you're a gamer or a game developer, you'll find yourself at home here. For context, my brother's a seasoned developer working on his very own RPG among other games he made. I'm a beginner with 2 months under my belt, and this is how I created my first 3D platformer as a beginner in only 2 weeks. Before we cover development for the game, we need to talk about the actual premise and inspiration for the platformer. One of my inspirations is Shovel Knight, and while I've never played the games, I do like how they take a knight and just put it into a platformer and make it work. So what I want is a mixture between RPG and platformer elements. So first, let's talk about everything we need to create the platformer, consisting of an MVP, minimal viable project, meaning just the basics that we need for this to be a complete game. Obviously, we need basic movement using player model and imported animations, a simple attack with hit detection, enemy AI with hit detection, health and damage systems for the player and the AI, collectibles, platforming with moving and or rotating platforms, a victory mechanic, UI including the menu, pause screen, and widgets like health and coins, and I need to make models for the player sword, and at least one enemy. Also, I'm going to need either a level select screen or a hub world to select the levels. Now already this sounds like a lot of stuff, but if we keep it simple, I know we can make it. So with that out of the way, let's get right into development. First, we need the player model. So I wanted a blender and opened it up and decided to get started on a simple knight character. Now I kept this aesthetic a simple low poly look because I only have minimal experience inside of Blender, but I was pretty proud with how it turned out. Just a very simple cartoonish look with simple proportions, and I textured it, and then right after that I created a sword for it. Now I wanted the swords to be kind of large and comical, almost like a great sword from like an anime or something. So I also wanted to blender and made a quick and simple great sword using simple polygons, and then imported it into the game. Then after this, I took the character, rigged it in Mixamo, and set it up with its animations. I put it into Unreal and got some basic movement working with a basic attack animation. The most recent thing my brother had taught me to make was enemies and AI. So to make the game feel more like a game, I decided to make an enemy next. First thing I did was open up Blender and I created a skeleton using similar proportions to the knight player. Then I rigged it in Mixamo and put it into the game. I got to work on the AI, keeping it pretty simple. I had random roaming where I'd randomly go to a certain point on the map for a few amount of seconds, and then once it spot the player, it would chase it and attack. Then I had to make hit detection for both the player and the enemy, and to get the point across, I had to make actual health and death systems as well as animations. And then finally, I created a widget for the player health. Now that combo is pretty basic, I moved on to the next part, collectibles. Creating collectibles was already pretty easy, as my brother had already taught me how to make coins in a previous project. So I simply took the 3D model that I already created and put it in the game, using basic code to make it where when the player collected it, it destroyed itself. And then I quickly made a widget to display how many coins the player collected. Around this time in development, a lot of the core mechanics to make a platformer were already completed, such as combat and collectibles, which is perfect because in a couple of days I would have to go out of town. But before this, I did kind of want to see what the game would look like as an actual platformer, so I designed the first level and then quickly blocked it out in Unreal Engine to give a feel of what the level could be like. I wanted to stick to the premise that I've established earlier, so I made sure while making the level that I mixed RPG and platformer elements. When creating the level, I wanted to make sure that I integrated RPG elements with the platforming, so I decided to make the level based off of a village like in an RPG. I blocked out the premise and the proportions. The level was surrounded by walls, and the goal was to be platforming atop the walls until you made it to the center, a bell tower where the final collectible would be. Eventually I'd add in later details like houses and waters and textures, but blocking it out gave the proportions and started to make the game finally feel like a real game rather than a template. At this point it was spring break, and I was aiming to finish it by the end of spring break because I had a lot more time to work on the game. However, there was a couple more things I did want to add before finishing the first level and its design, like moving platforms and a way to actually beat the level before I added in textures and finished the design of the level. First, I watched tutorials from Crystal Clear Games. I think it's Crystal Clear Games or Crystal Clear Studios, and they had a tutorial on moving and rotating platforms, which is extremely easy to make. You guys should check them out. He explains it very well. So I put that in very quickly, and then next thing I did was actually make a way to beat the game. So I simply took the coin, made a bigger version of it, made it shiny, and then did some quick code to generate a win screen, similar to how the rest of the UI worked, where when you collect it, you could beat the game and be sent back to the main menu, which, by the way, I did add in UI around this time, such as the main menu and a pause menu. At this point, I had all the mechanics I needed to finish the level, so I was able to make the looks of it. Now for textures, it was pretty simple. I just took PNGs from Google and just slapped it on there, but I did have to make a few 3D models for the level, such as the houses and a bell tower where the final collectible would be. To wrap up the level, I added any sound effects I felt was missing, and then finally Alright, so unfortunately when making the second level, I didn't have the foresight to record myself developing, so I'm going to have to show it right out the box here. But looking at the level, you guys will obviously tell it's a lot bigger and a lot different than the first level. Obviously I went for an ocean theme here, kind of like a tropical vibe, which I really like, where you kind of like hop from islands to islands until eventually you make it to the final part. But this level, a lot of it was just creating new assets, as there's a lot of 3D models I had to make, and some new mechanics which I want to show you guys. So I'm not gonna like play through the level quite yet. I'll save that for later, but I do want to show off what I kind of created here. So obviously you have your island hopping, and if you fall in the water you die. Couple platforms are 3D modeled and textured, like this low poly boat, these crates, and then I also created some palm trees in Blender to go with the environment. Surprisingly couldn't find any free ones on Fab, so I had to make that. And then created this giant ship over here, which took a little bit to make but wasn't too hard. And then some cannons which actually do shoot out, so that was pretty cool, a new mechanic that my brother taught me to make, which actually was really easy to do. And then we have a launch pad over here, so it was actually pretty simple to make. I think I learned it from Gorka Games, can't quite remember. But just use it as a launch character node, so if you walk into it, it like, you know, launches you, obviously. And then eventually you'll make your way all the way to the end here for the final collectible. Now I'm probably gonna have someone show off the level later on, but I'm not gonna spoil the actual gameplay part of it just yet until I get into the other things. But yeah, that was the second level. Took about a week to make, and I was really happy with how it turned out. The visuals, everything. I think once you guys see in action, it's like a lot more interesting than the first level for sure. I did say I'd save the gameplay for later, but I do want to give you guys a quick sneak peek of what moving around the level is like, so here you go. Initially there was going to be a third level, but I did eventually decide to cut it short at 2 levels, meaning the only thing I had left in development was to make a hub world to select your level. This was pretty basic to make. All I had to do was make a quick landscape, apply the textures, and then I did drop down 2 great swords with portals to each level. Now I know it is kind of, it's not very obvious which level it takes you to. I couldn't really figure out how to change the color, which I'm sure is a quick change, but I mean the levels aren't really needed to play in order, just simply that the player can play around with both levels if they like. So I kept it at that, messed around with the lighting, but yeah, other than that, the game was complete finally with the hub world. We had movement, we had combat, we had 2 different levels, we had projectiles, we had launch pads, we had everything, and now it's finally ready to package the game. So yeah, that was my first game ever made in Unreal Engine. I'm calling it Night Jumper because obvious reasons, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. I did not expect to be able to make a full 3D platformer with all the mechanics it had after 2 months of experience, but goes to show that 1, I had a great teacher, and 2, it's not as hard as you think if I could do it, especially with like sports in the way, because honestly I think it's more like 1 dedicated month. So if you're serious about game development and it's something you want to do, then definitely give it a try. It's so worth it. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, if you want to see what a beginner like me is capable of, then check it out on itch.io, which I'm assuming it would be published on by the time we're recording this video. But before we close off, I do want to have my friend Huntington check out the game and see his thoughts. Before ending the video, I do want to leave some gameplay for you guys, so I got my friend Huntington to play the game. Just to warn you guys though, the balance between the mic audio and the actual game audio wasn't really good, so it is pretty hard to hear him, but I hope you guys enjoy the gameplay.
Alright, let's see this garbage game. Oh, don't even need to double jump, nice. I think I got a speed glitch or something. Nope, don't need to fight skeleton. Oh yeah, you're right. Oh, I didn't have a double jump. What? Where did my double jump go? Oh yeah. My double jump. I'm not even joking. I wonder if I could get up there. Needs more transitions, more items, more hotkeys. What is this? Okay. Wait, I wonder what happens if I click hub world if I'm in like really fast. Why? You gotta play the game. Never mind. Not really. Ooh. Oh yeah, attacking while I'm dead. Get me out of here, bro. Give me. What are those? Why are big black balls coming towards me? What's the point of having that whole area? Where do I go? Oh. What happens if I'm midair? On the trees. Oh yeah, I'm a monkey. Oh, wait. Oh look, when I attack it makes me go slow. Oh, I might be cooked. I don't have my second jump. I'm going back. I wonder. Look at me bee-hopping, bro. Look at the bee-hop. The bee-hop board. Look at bro. Nope. No. Aww.
Thanks for watching. That was my first game made in Unreal Engine after a couple months of experience. If you guys want to play the game for yourself, then download it on itch.io. I'll leave a link in the description. And let me know in the comments what kind of videos you guys want to see next or what kind of games you want to see me make. Peace.